This table lamp can be created on any of the Legacies. We're going to use the Legacy Model 1000. This lamp features 24 facets around the base here, a base that was created on the rotary table, a tapered and fluted column. This is 12 flutes on a taper. This project will use two pieces of material, 2 inches by 4 inches by 17 inches. We've put double-sided tape on both of the pieces. We're actually going to secure it to the table, mill it smooth and flat so that we can glue them together. And when we do that, we'll also mill a groove in the middle, down the center, so that it'll have a space for the cord. Now you can see that we've taken and attached a flat milling table, very simple flat milling table, to the rails of the machine. We've also taken a V-groove bit, put it in the router, and identified 0 on our Y-axis. With that V-groove bit in there, we then scribed a line that's going to give us a point of reference. We also scribed a line at 25 inches along the X-axis, and that's just going to give us a point of reference with which we can align the material. Now notice also that we have a 1/2 inch hole that we've drilled all the way through the table. That simply allows us that when we tape our material down, sometimes it comes off very difficult. And so if we take one of our wrenches and just can pop that through, that'll help us to then release the material that's sitting in there. Once we've got our table ready to go, we've got double-sided tape on that. We've actually marked a point of reference for the lowest point of our material. We're actually going to plunge to that depth, but we'll just put one block, line it up with our marks, and secure that to the rails, to the table, and then we'll take the other piece and put it right next to it. And now we're all set. We've got a surface planing bit in the router. We're all set now to set our plunge to this level, and we'll give it about 15 thousandths, a little bit more depth, and mill this completely smooth and flat. That way when we glue them together, we're going to have a real nice surface with which we can glue them together. Now we have found a set of feeler gauges is a real handy tool to have in the shop for making those minor adjustments to your plunge depth. And now that we've got our plunge depth set, we're ready to start milling. Now you can see that gets that real smooth, real flat. Just takes a little bit of back and forth. We're moving the router each time about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. So we're not taking off a lot of material, but just planes it down smooth. Creating the groove for the electrical cord is nothing more than using a 3/4 inch core box bit that's plunged about 3/8 of an inch deep and positioning the router at 2 inches off of center. We'll do that on each of the pieces. We're going to stop 1 inch shy on each of the ends. Now you'll notice that we did that actually in a couple of passes, so you'll want to do that depending upon how much material you're taking out. With the two halves glued together, we've knocked the corners off on the table saw, mounted a hub, and now we're ready to put the piece in and start milling. Now with the stock in place, we've put on a 0.25 gear reduction set with a 1/2 inch gear pitch, and we're ready to mill the stock to a round. Now with the stock mill to around, we're ready to mill the beads on this end. We're actually going to use a 1-inch classic plunge bit. We'll actually mill on the very end and then 3 inches away from that. Now that we've milled these 2 beads with the classic plunge bit, we're ready to mill this section here. As you can see, this section is milled with the surface planing bit, and we've indexed the piece 24 positions to give us that multifaceted effect. To create this long neck on the piece, we're actually going to use the surface planing bit again and mill down lower below this cove here and mill it round, and then we'll come back in, put a slight taper on it, and then put our flutes on it in 12 positions. Now, as you can see here, we're taking off a fair amount of material, so you'll want to do that in several passes. Be patient. You'll also notice that this last pass, we actually put the bed on a taper. We're only off by 1 hold position, which is 1/4 of an inch distance. You judge for yourself how steep you want that taper. To mill the 12 flutes on this piece, we're going to use a 1/2-inch core box bit, and we're leaving our stop set where they were when we milled the stock to a round. That leaves us just a little bit of a space between the end of the flute and the end of the cove on each end. Now when you mill your flutes, you'll want to take 2 or 3 passes to set your plunge depth, and then as you do that, move slowly through the piece.